She is the CEO and founder of Major Executive Search. We've got Debbie Douglas. She is a director of talent acquisition at Viacom CBS, and Miriam Bilderlon, who is the global head of diversity and talent at Nielsen IQ, all very well versed in HR issues. The Great Resignation, I think, as a term, kind of induces some kind of, I don't know, panic or fear. Is there a different way that we could be looking at this period of time in terms of employment, in terms of opportunity, and perhaps especially for women who I think very often have looked for more flexibility in their working lives? And I'll just set that for you, Miriam.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you mentioned this concept of panic with the Great Resignation. One thing that we've been doing very diligently, and I'm sure many of you have done the same thing, is tracking our data. How big of a difference are we seeing really in actual people leaving the company? And I would say it's not as big as you would think, right, compared to previous years, 2019, before the pandemic, for us. But I would say that definitely there is a lot more visibility into how people are leaving careers and changing careers. And we know for sure that there's a higher rate of opportunity and talent mobility, and there's a higher competition for talent out in the market. And you have to be very intentional on how you attract talent. One of the things we're doing is our employee value proposition. You really need to change it now with all these new flexibility and new opportunities that you're giving employees to really integrate their work life, not find a balance, but integrate work and life, given the COVID-19 pandemic. In terms of women, in terms of caregivers, in terms of people who potentially were looking for a more flexibility, people with disabilities, I think this is an opportunity where we've all proven to ourselves that yes, you can do your work from home and have a little more flexibility and have less commute time, and make sure that you are visible when your kids come back from the bus stop. And many of these groups have been advocating and fighting to get this level of flexibility. And finally, we've proven that we could do it for the past 2 years. So I think that companies that do not take advantage of this and they go back to before pandemic time, they're going to have a hard time in the talent market. I was looking at some data that shows that 40% of employees who are or candidates going through the interview process will be asking about flexibility in the job. So I think that this is a perfect case, right, to prove that it can be done, that you can have more integration, and companies that do not leverage the potential would be at a miss. I do also see that millennials continue to want to have that connection with people in the office. We were looking at some data that around 70 to 80% prefer a hybrid work environment. So I think you have to also be intentional with those opportunities for people to connect and have a place where you can also connect with others and get to see people face to face. And companies who move 100% to remote might be missing that connection. So I think you have to be very careful to ensure that you are covering and serving the different populations you have and their different needs.
It's been an absolute pleasure to hear your insights and pieces of advice for our CircleAround viewers. And again, to the viewers, if you have found this as an insightful conversation as I have, please share on your social media, please send to a friend so that we can keep these conversations going and keep these expertise in flow. It's been a pleasure to be with you. I'm Poppy Mputing. That brings us to the end of this CircleAround panel.
Thank you so much.